And thanks to everybody for joining us here today. I'll just say a few quick things and then we'll get right to questions because I know we've got a lot of them. Obviously, we're talking after Budget 2024 came down on February the 29th, and it really is a pivotal time in our province's history. We wanted to put forward a responsible plan that will not only meet today's challenges head on, but also with an eye to the future and ensuring that we are securing that for the children and grandchildren who may not be able to benefit as much as we are from current resource revenues. The budget is a roadmap focusing on quality healthcare and education, as well as other social services, continued economic growth, and of course, enhanced public safety. And our government remains committed to do everything we can to make life better for Albertans today and for generations to follow. So first of all, we're building on Alberta's advantages. Budget 2024 is centered on maintaining our stable economic foundation so that we can foster growth not only in existing industries, but also new industries, as well as pay down debt and save to meet future challenges. Saving to meet future challenges is a crucial is going to be crucial for the long-term financial stability of our province. So this year, we will once more build our Heritage Savings Trust Fund, building off the growth from last fiscal year. For decades, the fund was not managed as it could have been, and in my view, should have been, but that does not mean that we can't place a stronger focus on that now. Former Premier Peter Lougheed had a vision that the fund would ultimately be able to eliminate our province's reliance on resource revenues, and I think we can still achieve that vision, and we will, so that our social programs and services that Albertans rely on are not in jeopardy today or tomorrow or well into the future. Secondly, of course, we're continuing to invest in Alberta's greatest asset, which is, of course, our people. Budget 2024 will focus on preparing for and responding to potential drought, sustaining modern, accessible healthcare and public services for families, and continuing to have the country's most business-friendly environment. We're making sure the province is fiscally responsible to ensure its long-term growth and future is the best place to live and work in Canada, while prioritizing the needs for Albertans and their families by investing in health, education, and safety. And with that, I'd be happy to take your questions.
Well, thank you so much, Premier, for taking time to talk with the Multicultural. All the question is very interesting, and I hope it's the first and not the last time we have here after the budget 2024, and I have more opportunity to talk in the year. My question is regarding in the solar energy in the province. How impact that one?
Is a system that makes sure that we've got the right energy being produced in the right place. And we have seen a number of solar installations go in that take up quite a large amount of land, and we want to make sure that they don't use prime agriculture land. There have been other jurisdictions, in fact, where there have been lawsuits when solar installations have gone on to prime agricultural land and sterilize that land. So we want to avoid that. And we want to incentivize installing solar in places where there's already existing infrastructure. It's very, very expensive to build transmission lines. And so if we can have solar on rooftops of existing homes, buildings, and other areas that are close to where the energy is going to be used, that is, we're going to incentivize that kind of installation. I think that's the best use of solar resources. When it comes to wind, we want to make sure that wind does not also interfere with some of our beautiful viewscapes. I mean, we have mountain parks that are national parks, Jasper, Banff, Waterton. It wouldn't make very much sense for us to obscure the beauty of those vistas. So that's one of the reasons why we want to be mindful of where they're placed. We also want to make sure that they're not placed too close to other critical infrastructure and neighbors. I have heard two stories that have me very concerned. One was the Oyen Airport had to be redesigned because a wind turbine was built too close to it. So we couldn't use medevac planes to evacuate health patients. And then another person in my riding is now having her ability to use spraying on her property because wind turbines are planned to be too close. So we have to make sure that they're sited in the right place, And then in both cases, that there's a plan to remediate when they come to end of life, which is about 25 years after they've been installed. So we wanted to give that clear guidance to the industry that those are our expectations, and the pause is lifted, and we'll watch the Alberta Utilities Commission do their work. First of all, let me just scope out the nature of the problem that we had with the Edmonton South Hospital. It began as a project that was going to be 1.8 billion, and then it went through various iterations. And by the time it emerged on the other end of that, it was being proposed to be $4.9 billion, which would have made it one of the most expensive hospital builds in the country. Plus, we also know that something that starts off at that level has a bunch of change orders, and so it could very easily have ballooned beyond that. And it was only going to deliver 400 new beds. So when we looked at the proposal, we realized that we needed to pause and figure out, what do we really need? And we are still committed to having a health campus in the south of Edmonton, but we have to make sure that we're building the right kinds of support facilities there. So the first step is, we know we need a standalone Stollery hospital for children. The Children's Hospital is currently spread over 4 different hospitals, mostly U of A. And if we build a standalone Stollery, that will free up 246 beds, which is almost the same amount that we were intending to build with the Edmonton South Hospital. But secondly, we also know that we have 1,547 people who are awaiting placement in other types of care facilities, whether it's long-term care, mental health, addiction. Maybe they're poor and they need some homelessness support or rental support, or maybe they just need home care and their home renovated. So if you think about that, that's 1,547. That's 4 Edmonton South hospitals. So we think it's really important for us to make sure that we're making best use of our current space, and then figure out what is needed. And one of the things we're beginning to see is needed is vastly more long-term care support, vastly more mental health support, addiction support, and also rental housing support for those who need to be in some kind of subsidized housing. So we have to do that analysis. It just doesn't make sense to spend $5 billion on a brand new Edmonton South Hospital when we have to solve all these other problems first. So we want to make sure that we're doing it right. So it's just going to be a pause while we figure all of those things out. And I think that Edmonton is going to be very happy with the additional space that we're able to free up as we build out the Stollery, and then build the right types of facilities at the Edmonton South location. So that would be the first part. When it comes to mental health, we feel as well, by splitting off mental health into its own department with Dan Williams at the helm of that, and as we start moving more of the resources away from Alberta Health Services, we think we'll get better value for the dollars there, so that we can also build our recovery communities, build more mental health facilities, and be able to support addiction treatment. So for instance, I'll give you an example. Our recovery communities that have 75 beds only cost $30 million to build. So you see why I'm very concerned about a hospital costing $5 billion and producing 400 beds, when producing 75 beds only costs $30 million. We could build a lot more mental health and addiction treatment if we make sure that we're building the right kind of facilities. And then when it comes to the condos, I think the whole purpose behind it is to create a better tribunal system, so that if there are disputes between condo boards and the people who own the condo units, that they can be resolved. I mean, I can tell you, I live in a strata, so I've seen it myself, where a condo board started fining people because they put Christmas decorations on their lawn. And had too many flower boxes. So I know firsthand how out of control condo boards can be, and how unreasonable it is, and that there isn't an avenue for appeal. So the whole purpose behind us doing that condo review is to at least create a forum so that an owner can plead their case. They may not always win them, but they need to be able to have a fair hearing. So we are intending to do that as well. I hope that answers your questions. I mean, we are concerned that there is a lot of variability in oil and natural gas. And that's part of the reason why we have a fairly prudent estimate for what we think oil will be this year. If you look at what the market is right now, it's about $80 for West Texas Intermediate. We have put in a price figure of $74 that we hope it will average over the year. So that's one measure that we've put in place. We're also very hopeful that the Trans Mountain Pipeline will be in operation this year. That is going to add 590,000 barrels per day additional production. So it's looking pretty good. They've just called for the companies to start filling the pipeline in anticipation that it will be completed and export can begin. So that's a very positive development. But we are also looking at new ways to be able to use our existing resource, natural gas in particular. We had a Alberta Petrochemical Incentive Program, which gave an incentive to companies who could find new ways to use natural gas as a feedstock. And that's why Dow Chemical made a $10 billion investment for net zero plastics with their petrochemical plant. Air Products is in the process of building their net zero hydrogen plant. And we're working on how, with the federal government and our British Columbia friends, on how we might be able to transport ammonia on the rail line out of the Port of Prince Rupert. On top of that, we're building out the hydrogen economy. So there'll be a lot more work there to support the transition to transportation fuels and heating on hydrogen. We've got a center of excellence for hydrogen development on that front. And we've also, through our Emissions Reduction Alberta Fund, we have funded $1.7 billion towards new and innovative approaches on energy. Some of the successes out of that were carbon engineering, which is a direct air capture program, Ever Technologies, which is a geothermal program, and various others. So we'll continue doing that kind of early stage support so that we can find new ways to be able to use our resource. So we want to be prudent and hopeful that we'll continue to be able to get the price that we're hoping for on both oil and natural gas. But we also know we need to develop out new uses as well as the new greener economy. So we're working on both sides of that.
¿Alguna vez te has sentido abrumada por la soledad o desmotivada o con ansiedad? No estás sola, créeme. Durante más de 20 años he trabajado con mujeres como tú para superar estos desafíos. Te invito a seguirme en Instagram para compartir consejos diarios, reflexiones y estrategias para superar esa soledad, esa desmotivación, la ansiedad y muchos otros factores en tu vida cotidiana.
I think we can do both. I mean, one of the things I would say on the Heritage Savings Trust Fund is it generates about $1 billion worth of income each year. And governments have just been taking that $1 billion out every year. And it doesn't allow for compound interest for it to grow. So what I've asked Albertans to do is just give me the support to keep that $1 billion in the Heritage Savings Trust Fund, so that it can grow over time, just like your RSP or your retirement savings. If you keep that money in, then after 10 years, it can double just with the investment income. And then it can double again after another 10 years. So I can foresee how by 2050, just by keeping the investment income in the fund, we would be able to grow it to $125 billion, which would generate anywhere between $5 and $7 billion a year in revenue. So it's a way of us creating a new source of long-term revenue when we may find that our resource revenues are not generating as much. So I think that's really important, that we just have the discipline to put aside $1 billion and allow it to continue growing. We already do have a medical research endowment fund that has money in it that is called the Alberta Heritage Foundation for Medical Research. So it's also a pot of money that generates income each year. And I believe the income goes to Alberta Innovates for exactly what you're describing, so that we can have health research. We also have just on the general fund that we have for healthcare, we've increased our healthcare spending so that combined capital and operating, we are now over $29 billion. It's the highest amount of healthcare spending that we've ever had. So that's why I say we can do both. We can keep $1 billion in the Heritage Fund so that it can grow over time, so that we have the money to be able to ensure that we can safeguard the future. But we also know that the number one goal and the number one program that we deliver as a government is healthcare. And so we have to make sure that we're continuing to invest in healthcare. At the moment, what we're trying to do is figure out the best way of refocusing the system around primary care, so everyone can have a family doctor or nurse practitioner, around mental health and addiction, so that people are going to the right place to get the right type of treatment that gets them on the road to recovery. Long-term care, so that people aren't waiting in hospital, that they're able to get out into an appropriate facility, and then make our acute care system focused on getting people efficiently through on the emergency side, but also eliminating the wait list for surgeries. So I feel confident that we can do all of these things. And so I believe we got the right balance here, and we'll see over the course of the next year, as we do our restructuring, what our health minister recommends for next year's budget. I think that the problem is the misinformation on this. We already have a pharmacare program that covers 5,000 drugs. And if the feds had come to us and said, we want to work with you to expand your 5,000 drug program to include more people, so that more people have coverage, then yes, we're interested in talking to them about that. But that's not what they did. They instead decided they would only cover 2 conditions. And I have to tell you, I think of my father, who is on our seniors plan. He's on 7 different types of drugs. Needless to say, as a 75-year-old, birth control is not one of them, and he doesn't have diabetes. So he's not going to give up the comprehensive wheat plan we have that covers 7 of his drugs to cover 2 drugs that he doesn't need at all. And so I have to make sure that my seniors are covered, that those who are on AISH are covered, that those who have disabilities are covered, and that anybody who is covered on what we call our non-group plan, that covers anybody who doesn't have an employer-funded plan. We have to make sure that they're covered for the conditions that they need, not the conditions that the NDP have so narrowly defined and want to support. So yes, we'll work with the federal government on making sure that we have a comprehensive plan that covers all conditions and does not reduce the amount of coverage that we have for the 5,000 drugs. And if there's a way that they can help us ensure that we bridge the gap, because there are a number of people, for whatever reason, who don't have coverage through their employer or the government program, and they're uncovered, and that leaves me nervous too. I think we have to do more to be able to solve that problem. But what they proposed is not even remotely close to a universal program. And we simply cannot cancel the plans that we have for something that's so meager and so narrow and limited. So then on the issue of the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, you may know if you followed my what I've said about our provincial nominee program over the years, is that I feel like we should be a lot more aggressive in using our temporary foreign worker program as a bridge to permanent immigration. In Quebec, 55% of the newcomers to that province are chosen by the provincial government. In Manitoba, which is a smaller province than us, 20,000 newcomers to that province are chosen by the province for agriculture purposes. So when I came in, I discovered we were only bringing in about 6,500 people through our provincial nominee program process. We've increased that. So we are now going over 10,000 provincial nominees this year. So we're getting there. But I have just instructed my immigration minister, who is meeting this week with his counterparts, that we really need to increase that to 20,000 as quickly as possible, and ultimately be similar to Quebec, where 55% of the people that we choose or that come to Alberta are chosen through the provincial nominee program. And the reason for that is because we have we've got so many people who want to come here. So the stream that you're talking about in particular, we put a temporary pause on February 15th, because it'll take it until at least April 1st to assess the applications on the Alberta Opportunity Stream. The pause is going to enable us to focus our numbers on the priority streams that we have. So we want to try to fill labor shortages in healthcare, technology, construction, agriculture, tourism, hospitality, and other in-demand sectors. The Alberta Opportunity Stream has been very, very popular. It received an unprecedented number of applications in January. So the overall inventory of applications is now more than 70% of our yearly allotted nominations across all streams. To give you some idea, because we've got multiple streams, and that one already accounts for 70% of what we've been allotted. There's 121,600 temporary foreign workers currently here. So let me just give you a few more numbers here so you know what it is we're grappling with. So on February 6th, 2024, the Alberta Opportunity Stream has more than 4,900 unprocessed applications in the inventory, with more than 730 nominations already issued in 2024. It continues to rise every day. In 2023, we ended up receiving 8,599 applications in total. And just in the first month of 2024, the stream received 1,300 applications. We can get those numbers for you if you weren't able to write them all down. But I just want to give you the sense of the popularity of the program and why the limitation that we have on the number of people that we're allowed to approve through our provincial nominee program is just not sufficient. So we increased our allocation to 10,140 in 2024. It has to be distributed across all of our 8 different streams. And we want to make sure that it continues to be a bridge between the successful recruitment of foreign workers and permanent nominees. So yes, so the intention is for us to be able to take the limit off. But that tells you why it is we had to put the pause on. It's so popular, and we just want to make sure that we don't end up running out of positions and not able to fill our priority areas for worker attraction. So the intention is by April 1st, you'll have more clarity on that. The high cost of living. We recognize that that's a problem, which is why we have a program that allows for us to take away the fuel tax as the cost of fuel goes up because of the high price of WTI and Western Canada Select. it was over $90 a barrel last year, which is why we took the program, why we took our fuel tax off. When the oil prices are low, the price that you pay at the pump also comes down. So that's when we put the tax back on. But we're going to continue to watch that, because if the price goes up, we'll make sure that we're flexible. And that's going to be a permanent program. It will always be the case that when prices get too high, we take the tax off. When prices begin to go low, we'll bring the tax on. So that's one way. We also did a major review of electricity, and there'll be more changes that will be announced so that we can keep the cost of electricity in the band that is affordable for people, like the 7 to 11 cent a kilowatt hour. That's what we're aiming for. And my minister announced sort of the first step towards that. He's got more to announce on March the 11th, and that with 2,700 new megawatts of natural gas coming on stream, we believe that will keep that price low. When it comes to insurance, we told the insurance companies that they could not increase the insurance premiums on good drivers more than inflation, because that people expect, if they're a good driver and they've got a good record, that they shouldn't be seeing big increases. So that's one way that we've protected people on insurance. We've got more work to do there, and we're looking at other programs around the world so that we can address the underlying problems with the system that has made insurance so expensive. We've expanded our rental subsidy program so that more people can qualify for rental subsidy. We think it's important that we continue to build more rental units and build more houses so that we will have both affordable and attainable housing. So rental subsidies is the way to make sure that developers continue to want to build new homes. We are also partnering though with the home builders, so that we're spending $840 million over 3 years to build more affordable housing as well. So that's another approach that we're taking. We also indexed the support payments for assured income for the severely handicapped, seniors benefit, and other programs of that nature so that it would go up and keep up with inflation. And we also began re-indexing our tax brackets again, so that there's $1 billion worth of savings this year just by indexing the tax brackets, and we'll continue to make some indexing changes there as well. The reason why you can see we had to put off the implementation of the personal income tax is because we're very close to running a deficit. Personal income tax cut, so that we promised during the campaign, would cost about $1 billion. So we have to do a couple of things. We have to make sure that we're slowing the rate of increase in spending, and we have to see what happens with oil and gas prices first before we deliver on that program, because we can't go back into deficit. If we go back into deficit, that just continues to add to debt, continues to add to finance charges, which continues to take more money away from the programs that we need. So we wanted to make sure that we're giving relief, but doing it in a way that is going to be affordable. So those are the things that we're doing on that front.